What's going on, junkies? Thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited to get this show started. We have one of the business bros with us today, and he's going to share all his insights about his show and his story and all that. So, but first, join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. So we got a great community going on there. So go ahead and join us. And with that, Will, let's get started.
Yep. Thanks, Brandon. Today on the show, we have Hernan Sias, and he is half of the hosting duo of the Business Bros. So he's just a business bro. He's a podcast host, awesome teacher with lots of business experience. And he has said that he's like the Matrix because he interviews tons and tons of people. They run a daily show just like ours. They're about a year ahead of us. So we're going to learn a lot from this, but he's like the Matrix because he interviews tons of people and he hears everything that they're saying, inserts it into his head, and then shuffles it out and teaches it to people. So I'm really, really excited for this. Hernan, thanks so much for coming on our show. Can you just give the listeners a little bit more about your background and what got you to where you are today?
Heck yeah. Well, thanks guys for having me on the show. I love getting to know you guys. For those of you guys who don't watch the video live from them, they look exactly like us. They got a bald guy and a guy with hair. So
yeah, we're just copying you guys. So.
Yeah,
it's the one with hair, just for the record.
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to have some fun here. We're going to get to know, you guys are going to get to know us and our show a little bit. And hopefully you guys learn a little bit to improve your show faster than what we were able to do. My name's Hernan Sias, host of the Business Bros podcast. A little bit of background of myself. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. I didn't come from any no silver spoon in your mouth or anything like that. We're pretty broke as kids. Matter of fact, there was a time in our life where we went homeless. So money was not one of those things that we had. But what I did get from my parents, what was huge inspiration for them, is they always knew that somebody else had the answer. Somebody else was going to be the person to teach you what you needed to know. There's a better life out there and you're able to go get it. And so with that sort of kind of, mentality or lessons that my parents kept putting in our head, when we turned 18 years old, my dad got this financial advisor to come to the house. And for my dad to cough up $75 an hour in the 90s for somebody to come to your house to teach you something, it was something valuable, So we grabbed a couple of our friends to come over and listen to this lady talk about money, right? And for me, that was one of the very first eye-opening experiences, because up until then, money was just like something you got to buy, your Flaming Hot Cheetos or your soda or something like that. It wasn't anything like useful. I was 18 years old. All I really wanted was a car and to take girls out on dates. That was like it, right? That was the extent of what I needed money for. But she opened her eyes to look at things like, check out your spending patterns. How many times did you go to 7-Eleven this week? Why are you paying, $5 for that hamburger when you can make a sandwich, all the time? Or back then it was 29-cent cheeseburgers at McDonald's, just saying. But,
man, those so the days.
Exactly. Those were the good days. College days. It was, top ramen and some McDonald's 29-cent hamburgers. So anyways, so it was the beginning of me learning that there's a whole new world out there. There's something else. There's a way to play this game. I always equate it to when I tell my students, like the first time you play Monopoly, for example, the very first time you play Monopoly, you probably sucked. Matter of fact, you lost, right?
Mm-hmm. You have no idea what you're doing.
You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea how, what's this card I need to pull? Like what happens when I land on it? You're learning the rules to the game. But as soon as you learn the rules to the game, now you have an opportunity to win. Now you have an opportunity to, buy a specific property set, or you start to learn strategies. Well, maybe I'm going to buy everything on this street, or maybe I'm only going to put 3 houses, or I'm going to put red hook, whatever the strategy is. Once you know the rules of the game, you have a chance to win. And so I took that same concept in life and I said, okay, there are people in here in this world that are making a ton of money. Really wealthy people. I mean, you can talk about, the most richest person in the world. I think back then it was Bill Gates at the time, and the Zuckerberg didn't exist yet. But, computers were growing big. People are making money, the Googles of the world. And I could be like that, or I can just learn about what they're doing. And maybe I don't want to have to play the game at that level. Where is my comfort zone? Where is it that I'm going to be the happiest at?
Right.
And so, and doing so, I ventured me into a lot of different things. We bought our first house when I was 20. We went and learned about real estate investing, ended up buying another house in Vegas that lost money, by the way. So we had to learn some strategies to make it into a cash flow positive thing. We started a computer repair company. That was super awesome. It did really well until
when you say we, it's always you and your brother.
Always, yeah. It's been me and my brother. So up until this point, right? So we started this computer repair company. This is a funny story. So I'll share this story. We bought the house. Everything was gravy until my brother rolled his truck. So he worked for this company called Cox Communications. I don't know if you guys have it out there, but they're a cable company, right? And so my brother was installing high-speed internet at the time because that's when we were changing from dial-up to high-speed. And he saw this like puddle of mud and he thought it'd be cool to go like off-roading in the truck. And he rolled the truck. Yeah, it sounded like a good idea until he rolled the truck, and of course he got fired. So we're 20, 21 years old. We have this mortgage to pay for, and he has no job. So we take these flyers. We just write up these flyers real quick. We're like, hey, we'll fix your computer, install your high-speed internet. And we go door to door every morning passing out these flyers. And we started with, getting one appointment for him, then 2, then 4, then booked out 3 days in advance and a week in advance. And we had to hire another person. We ended up opening the store. But we were young and dumb, dude. We were like, check it out. You hungry? Let's take money out the cash box and let's go buy something to eat. Right? Like that's how we operated. Like we brought money in for the day. We paid everybody who needed to get paid. And when we had money left over, that was cool. You know what I mean? That's it. Yeah. That was the extent of our business knowledge. A couple years into
that's cool.
That's cool. Except a couple years into it, my brother gets his heart broken. Girlfriend breaks his heart. He goes to Navy recruiter, says, "What gets me out like tomorrow?"
He's trying to get
Navy and bounced, right? And so I have this business. I have 2 properties. This business. I know nothing about computers. I just kind of helped him because he needed a job to pay the mortgage. Mm-hmm. So he tells me, he's like, "Hey, you got to drop me off at the recruiter. Keep the houses. Keep the business. I'm out."
Wow.
And like,
so he just left you high and dry,
dude.
Yeah.
So I ended up
like, what the hell?
Hell yeah, it was like, what the hell? Well, I was kind of like sad too at the same time. Like he's bouncing on me, like he used to be, literally, went from being my roommate to like a roommate to, like business partner, and now he's bouncing. So, it was a cool gig. And then it wasn't, right? And so at this point, I'm like, how do I continue to operate this thing? I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to shut it down. I thought shutting it down's got to be the easiest thing. Sold my property in San Diego, sold the property in Vegas, made money. I was like in a good place, started to shut down the business. And then I realized something that I never understood. And this is where the business education began, right? This is where the rules of the game, if you don't know the rules are going to kick you in the face. We had incorporated because somebody told us that's what we should do. But what I didn't know was that I was personally banking this baby corporation that we signed. Nobody's going to lend you any money or give you any contracts to a baby corporation that just incorporated a few months ago, right? So you personally sign. I didn't understand what personally sign meant. So when I went to shut down this business, I had a lease that was up for another 3 years that I had to, try to weasel my way out of. Back then we were marketing things called the yellow pages, and there was like the regular yellow pages, the Verizon yellow pages, the yellow book, all these different had annual contracts attached to them. A tax return, what the hell was that? Like I've never filed a tax return for my company or paid any payroll taxes. Like all these things in the shutdown process are, our seller's permit paying, sales tax, all these things that I didn't know were part of a business that they don't teach you.
You're not the only one that doesn't know that either,
a ton of people. I ended up shutting that business down and going broke, like bankrupt, pay broke, done.
Oh, really? So it hurt you?
It hurt me. I ended up, by the time I was done, I had $20,000 in cash, no career, no business, no college degree. My wife had just started her student teaching, so she was about to work as a teacher for 6 months without getting paid. And we had a wedding to pay for because we were about to get married. So like it was the worst possible time, but the greatest education ever. Like at that point in my life, the entrepreneur bug had bit me, and that's it. Like I was already waiting. Like I was waiting for the attorney to tell me like, let me know when I can pull the trigger to start again. Cause I got another idea. And this time, I'm going to get it right.
Right.
And that's what I equate with a lot of people. I'm like, that's my starting point. That's my origin story. This is where, I wanted to become, my goal has been and always will be, I want to be rich and famous. And I don't need to be like famous, like Will Smith famous or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. I just want to be known in my industry as the person who helped a lot of people get to where they need to go, right? I have a level of famous that I want to get to. It's the same thing with the level of rich. Like I don't need millions and millions of dollars. My goal has always been $30,000 a month in residual income. Yep. So, how I get there has always varied, but knowing that that's what I want to get to has helped shape what I want to do. And I didn't develop or admit to myself that rich and famous was where I wanted to go because it sounded corny.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
It definitely does. Yeah.
anybody ever, it's like the answer that a 5-year-old gets. I'm going to be a firefighter, right?
A little kid.
Yeah. And so
Right.
it sounds whack. And so I like suppressed it myself. You know what I mean? I didn't want to admit that so I'd come up with other things like, I'm going to be the best CEO, or I'm going to build a company. Like, come on, dude. Like, if you're not honest with yourself, how are you going to be honest with whatever it is that you're going to do?
Right.
You know, so
100%.
I've attempted a couple different things. The very first thing I did when I got, after I went broke, was I enrolled in H&R Block's tax school. I was like, who the hell was Uncle Sam, and why did he bend me over and take all my money? Like, what the hell happened here, right? So I enrolled in tax school, and I started doing tax returns, and I got to the point where things shift. Like, I've always been a good student most of my life. I figured out really quick that school's pretty easy. If you sit down and listen to the teacher and then actually pay attention, if you did even some of the homework, that's going to prepare you enough for what's on the test, because it's a combination of what they give you on paper and what they're telling you.
Yep.
So I've always done pretty well in school. But when I went to college, I had dropped out because we were making all kinds of money in our business. Like, who needs this college stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
Why
need
am I
this
going to go
stuff.
sit in a classroom and learn non-real life stuff?
So I remember being in a like a Chicano studies course, and I was about to give a presentation, and I had done all my work. I had the presentation ready. I stood up at the front, and I was like, what am I doing here? And like, I just left. Like, I walked off the stage, like almost like a mic drop thing. I was like,
Really?
I'm not going to do this. Walked off. And that was the last day I went to college. I didn't go back until 7 years later. And that by then I knew what I wanted to do. When I was going to college the first time, I went because I was supposed to, because I got good grades in high school. You're supposed to go to college. I was undeclared because I didn't know what the hell I was doing there.
Right.
I was like Eminem in 8 Mile. I just had my headphones on and I was walking to the next class.
Right.
And so, aimlessly. But when I went back, like, I had learned about taxes because I had lived that life. I was able to consult people because I had been through that same hurdle that they are going through currently. And now I'm getting my degree in accounting because I want to know how this money operates. I want to be able to look at a business and say, holy crap, you're bleeding over here. Or, oh my gosh, you're bringing in money like crazy in this revenue stream. We can look at something else. We can look at your balance sheet. We can look at your statement of cash flows. We can look at all these different things. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about before, but now I am improving myself so that I know the rules of the game, so that when I play the game, I have a better chance of winning. Right. And so, all those things started to line up. And then, of course, life happens. I have kids. I get married. And time that you used to have when you have no kids starts to shrink up. You know what I mean? And start to focus your attention. You're
responsible for other human beings now.
Absolutely. So I start to get a little creative. Okay, well, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get my degree in accounting. You know what? I'm going to take that extra year. I'm going to get my teaching credential. And my goal is to teach kids exactly not to step in the holes that I stepped in. Right. And so I got my teaching credential, and it took a good 3 or 4 years of teaching 9th grade algebra before I was able to push enough light into somebody to say, come on, give me this course that I want that's available that you used to teach back in the day. Let me teach that. So finally it came about, the opportunity came, and I took it. And I've been teaching finance, basically financial algebra, to students every single day in the morning. So I start around 7 a.m. I'm done about noon. So I don't teach full-time, but my mornings start off teaching 17-year-old kids how not to step in the same holes as I did, to get a basic understanding of some financial terminology, so that when somebody's talking to them and they hear things like cosine or DTI or words that nobody would understand, they would have seen it at least once in their life.
So when you're teaching, that's in person, I'm assuming, right?
In person, live at an actual high school.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine in the beginning of the school year, they kind of come into class thinking, okay, another class just to take, blah, blah, blah. But do you kind of see the mental light bulb pop on in their head throughout the semester or year when they kind of realize, wow, I actually need this stuff?
Oh, 100%. And it's funny because it works two ways, actually. The plus side is this course is something that every single high school student should take. It should be 100%. Mandated that you take this course. However, if you haven't been in high school for a while, you forget what it's like. They're pushing you towards a college degree. So they're pushing you towards taking AP courses, taking, these college prep courses, scoring high on ACTs and ACTs and all this stuff, right? So it's not really about what you need to prepare for life. It's what you need to prepare to go to college. Mm-hmm. And so my course is actually a backup course. So if you don't do very well in math, so it's for simplicity, you take math 1, 2, and 3. You're required to take math 1, 2, and 3 to graduate high school. If you're not capable of getting math 3, then you have some other options. My class is one of those options. So it allows the kids to graduate from high school. So right now it's a dumb course.
Better option.
It is, but right now it's treated like a dumb course. Right. So I get all the kids who have not done well in school all through high school. Yeah, that's who ends up in my class. So I start off every single class as honest with them as like when I'm with you guys. I'm just going to tell them the truth. I'm like, look, let's face it, guys. If you're in this class, it's either A, you know what it's about and you've chosen, which is very few of you, or B, you have not done well in high school up until this point, right? And I'm honest with them. I'm like, look, that doesn't mean that your life is over. Matter of fact, you have a better opportunity than most of your peers who are about to go to college because they're going to end up with a 4-year degree and a huge mortgage where you get a 4-year head start. And if you play the game, if you understand the rules to the game, not only do you get a 4-year head start, that 4 years could be your experience marker. So when they get out the gate at a college, it's absolutely true that a college degree person is going to earn more money right out the bat, but you're going to have 4 years of experience, 4 years of developing your skills, 4 years of fine tuning who you want to be, and no debt. Right? Like, and that's a huge differentiator. And if you can get them to see that, maybe high school wasn't built for someone like me. Right? High school was not designed for that kid that is going to be that entrepreneur who's going to go out and work with their hands, who's going to go out and make something of their own. But unfortunately, even those, if we don't structure something for them and show them that the rules of the game apply to them too, that it's not just the rich people's or everybody else's rules, these are your rules too, and you have a chance of winning just like that other guy, then now they buy into these concepts a little better. Right now it's like, oh shit, I got a chance. You mean if I learn this stuff, we're gonna make some money. And my objective in school is always to help them develop a business. So I do my classroom in twofold. I have one fold which is the book. Right, it's a high school course. I'm required to teach you the standards. Right, I have to hit the standards. But the other part is, let me teach you something that we can do. So like semester 1, I had the kids build businesses, and most of them it sucks because they've never done it before, right? But I got a handful of products or services that they came up with that are pretty good. Second semester, and this is the first time I'm gonna do this, we're gonna build ClickFunnels to sell their particular products or services, or they're gonna help me create ClickFunnels for products and services that I'm developing myself. And the objective is for them to make money. Right?
That's cool.
So to have their own creativity.
You're not teaching them Y equals MX plus B and all that bullshit that you learn in school typically. You're teaching them actual useful things that entrepreneurial type people will want to. They'll get some value from that. That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
However, I do teach them the Y equals MX plus B, but they only care about it now because it makes sense, because it's relevant. Okay. If I can show you a break-even chart, right, and I'm showing you the equation of a line where this is your cost and this is the equation of a line and these are your incomes, and where they meet is a break-even point, that's a systems of equations problem. That's a math problem.
Right.
But it doesn't. Who cares until we're talking about their money?
Exactly. So you can put a real life value on it.
It's the buy-in, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that for almost anyone in any aspect of life. The reason why people don't end up being successful when it comes to their own finances is because it's not important to them. It doesn't mean anything yet. It's not until you get them to see that, oh crap, there's another way to play this game. They don't even know they're in a game. You know what I mean? Like you guys read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Most people don't know they're in a rat trap. They don't know that they're in the rat race. They just keep spinning the wheels because they feel like they're moving. Right. But they don't understand that there's another opportunity out there. No one ever explained to them the rules. And because nobody ever explained to them the rules, they're stuck, right? Yeah. And it's not until they figure it out. And sometimes it's, I mean, how many people that are barely starting to decide what their retirement route is going to be, and they're like 50, right? They spent all that time. Thinking, I got time until you don't. Right. And so, but again, and now all of a sudden it's important to them. So now is when they take the time to learn. Like, I don't believe in the whole ADD thing. That's not true. Like, I personally don't think it's true. Do you have a problem focusing your attention? Absolutely you do, because the thing you're trying to focus your attention on, you don't care about.
Correct.
But if I put you in front of something you care about, you're focused. You're like laser focused.
Yeah. 100%.
No, you can get headshots, no problem on that Call of Duty. No problem.
When you start
with the
saying
high
that's
sensitivity,
exactly what I was
right?
thinking about, yeah.
But that's the point is it's because it doesn't interest you. So how do you get people to get interested? That's the key.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Like you said, this should be taught in every high school, and there should be a waiting list, right? I mean, your class should literally have a waiting list. It should not be the the dumb kids, like you said. I mean,
it's
right.
And here's the thing: is most of the times they're not dumb kids.
No, absolutely not.
They've only but the truth is they've defined themselves as dumb kids because of the grades that are given to them in other courses. They're never going to care about writing an essay in MLA format. However, if we can create a sales funnel for them, and all of a sudden they need to learn that if I can tell a story correctly, if I can show that that this is an external struggle that I want to go through. I want to get from point A to point B. This is the internal struggle that my person's going through. This is how I'm going to change the person I am to achieve that said goal. They're telling a story in their sales copy. Now, all of a sudden, learning this format of storytelling is relevant because they want to sell a freaking product, right?
Yeah,
and they got to do it the right way. They got to be able to engage their audience by telling a story correctly. So there's a lot of applicable features in school. It's just we're teaching it so archaically and it's not relevant to what we're doing that it gets lost.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's a lot of useful information there.
So have you tried to connect with, let's say, the English teacher or a couple of English teachers in the school that you teach and say, hey, look, try this type of writing assignment with your students or with my students and see if they get it and if it gets a little bit better for them and kind of open their eyes too?
Yeah, it's tough. Okay, so people are people, right?
Yep.
And people are very adverse to change.
Sure.
If you try to get somebody like you can never force someone to do something ever that they don't want to do, right? Like even your kids, tell them to clean their room. They're never going to do it the right way because they don't want to do it until it's the day that they want to do it. And it works that way with teachers too. So if I go to my wife, for example, is an English teacher. So she has this piece of paper from this accredited university that says she is an expert and proficient in this English language, right? So if I go to her and tell her, hey, you should do it like this. You should write the sales copy this way so they can tell a story. Like, well, that doesn't meet this standard. That doesn't meet this standard. This doesn't do this. Like, I don't want to do that. And it takes a lot of planning and prepping. Like, it's totally different. So the approach that I've done is I'm more the opposite. I take a look at what they're doing in their other classes, and then how can I turn that into something that I can use in my class, right? So so I pair really well with economics because they're doing things in an economics course very similar to what I do in my course. So and same thing with like Avid, for example. Avid's a lot of prep for the future type things. So I try to cater and prop up that other teacher as much as possible so that other teacher is going to come up to me and be like, hey, what are you doing in your class? It's kind of a reverse thing, right? You know what I mean? Right. Because if I go and try to tell her, your teacher's an idiot doing that, why are you doing that? You should be doing it this way. Like I'm bashing that person instead of trying to help that person. Yeah. And so it's a longer process, but now I got a couple teachers that are buying in. And so because they buy in a little bit, I might not get an entire semester geared towards what I wanted to, but at least in their mind, they're thinking a little bit differently. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just applying those different things. If I could make those kinds of grand changes, I would. And I think that's what, podcasting and being able to send your message out regularly does. Right. Because people are going to listen to your message on their time when they're prepared to receive your message. Correct. Because I can talk to kids until they're blue in the face, but until they're ready to receive that message, it's not going to make a difference. Go in
one ear out the other.
Yeah. So I have a question. So you mentioned that you a goal of yours is to be pulling in $30,000 a month in residual income, passive income, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you doing to get there? Because it's as far as I know, teaching is not. It's that's not a super lucrative thing, right?
No, it's not.
Right. So what are you doing to get there? Yeah.
So when we went broke, right? When I told you guys how, I went bankrupt, went basically broke. We were basically living off one income, which was my wife's income. So after the 6 months where she was doing her student teaching, she finally got her job as a teacher, full job benefits, everything. It was awesome. Yeah. Nice. And so she was the breadwinner. And so we started our lives with living off of her income. And as things progressed in our life, every time she got a raise, our life got a raise. And nice. So what I started doing was, I was building our businesses at the time. So I started building a tax practice, and it wasn't as lucrative as what she was making, but it started building a little more. And we focused in on keeping our lifestyle within the parameters of what she makes every month. So we live off of one income every
That's
single
so
month.
smart.
And then
So you never went back to living on two incomes.
No, we live off one income, and then everything I make,
Nice.
it goes into our asset column, right? This is how we ended up,
Feeding other stuff.
right, flipping properties, or this is how we ended up buying a video game truck and, starting to run that business. And so, or developing whatever other things we want to do, or
That's
sometimes
cool.
just, straight going on vacation, right? I mean, sometimes you got to do that too.
You got to do it. You got to take a break.
But, it allowed us that flexibility. Another thing that we do that I teach my students all the time is the envelope accounting system. So we were broke, so we had to really budget what we had. And so rather than swiping our card, we would take our money every single month, and that's grocery money. This is our gas money. This is our fun money, whatever it is. And we stick it in our envelopes, and that's how we paid our bills. Like that, everything else was automatic.
The Dave Ramsey
was just
approach,
cash.
right?
Right. It's the Dave Ramsey approach. And so, and try not to acquire any debt as much as possible. And that really it sucked at first, but it's gotten better over time. And now, I don't really worry about money very much. Although, if she stopped working, that would be kind of a weird hiccup. But now we can spend time on building our assets. If one of our businesses loses money, it sucks, but it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? And so that's one of those biggest things. It allows us to take more risks. So for us, that's how we started, is sticking to, this is the definite budget that we're going to live by, and then take everything else we make and invest it into what we want to do.
That's great. Keep feeding the beast.
Keep feeding the beast. But even that's been kind of difficult because I'm kind of a risk taker myself. So for me, I never use money I've never really seen money as I don't know, something that I love. I enjoy collecting it. Like my wife will get on my case. She says, you hoard money, because I have different sections. Like I do fun things like I don't spend $10 bills, for example. Right. So if I go to the store, I pay, I go and buy something that's like $3, I give them a 20. And if the cashier gives me a $10 bill, that $10 bill goes in another pile. Like I can't spend $10 bills. It's just a fun way of saving some extra money.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. That's a really good strategy though. That kind of makes
I got a shoebox full of like $10 bills, right? And it just stacks up. And so, so there's one hoard of money. I have different containers with, where I put quarters or nickels and dimes, that sort of stuff. And that's a different container of money. I can't pay for cash on Amazon. So I have this other envelope where if we swipe, we have to put our cash into that envelope so that, we can pay off the credit card every month. But I don't actually do that because we live pretty comfortably that I just pay off the credit card. And now I have this extra envelope of cash,
nice.
So literally I hoard money in different ways because to me it's fun. Like if I can share, like if one of those strategies works for you and you're able to put away an extra $100, $150 a month, then it's done its purpose, right? It's met its intended purpose, where I've been able to teach somebody something that I'm actually doing, something that I'm applying, so that you can see that it works or not. Does it make a huge difference in your life? Not right now, but the accumulation of $100, $150 a month with compound interest over time can be a lot of money for some people. And that's just the starter point, right?
Warren Buffett talks about compound interest and how powerful it is. And
it's the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's the key to financial success. Period. Yep. Hands down. There's no other way you're going to do it other than through compound interest. But the thing that people miss out on, that compound interest, a lot of people understand it. What they don't grasp is the time concept, right? The only way compound interest works in your favor is over time.
Yeah, right.
And the problem is you get very impatient, but you don't start early enough.
Correct.
And then when you're impatient, it's when you don't have enough time at the end. Compound interest doesn't work without that factor of time. So the earlier you understand that story, the earlier you start putting, even if you don't know what you're going to invest in, if you're in the habit of stockpiling money at a young age, you're going to figure it out, whether you mess up the first time or not, whether you've decided to be wise and listen to people who've already done it, or be, human and try it yourself and take the risk. You can get lucky or you can mess up. But the point is, when you have skin in the game, it's much more of a I don't know, scarring lesson. You can look back and say, man, I remember when I messed up and I got that scar, right? I remember when I messed up and I did this. And those are lessons.
Knocks,
yeah, it's a school of hard knocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or we can be wise, which most people aren't, and listen to our elders, look to somebody who's already done whatever it is you want to do. You want to buy, I don't know, apartment buildings? Go talk to somebody who does that regularly. You know what I mean? You want to build a podcast? Talk to somebody who's done that for a while. You want to build an insurance agency? Go talk to people who've done that, and then take the steps. But most of us don't. We kind of just we're like, oh, I'm going to do that. Cool. Let's go get a license and do it. I've done that before. Trust me, I do that all the time. But it's still,
we're in the information age. Any piece of information is at our fingertips. Like if you want to figure out how to start an underwater basket weaving company, I mean, you can do a few Google searches and find out
somebody out there's done it and learn from them.
Exactly.
So, well, Hernan, while we're on that topic, you've got the Business Bros podcast that you do with your brother. You guys you said a Monday through Friday show. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So for the listeners, they are a very similar concept. And we were talking before the show, we almost look similar. You know, we got the one bald guy and the other one with hair, which I'll be the bald guy.
I don't know how you guys decided to get started, but I told you, James kind of
question.
Right, James kind of screwed me in early on in our careers where he took off and joined the Navy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I got partnered in with this insurance company, Pipeline Insurance. I basically had two guys, one guy that's awesome in insurance, one guy that owns a licensing school. They got together to build an insurance agency. One's good at insurance, one's good at recruiting, but they both sucked at the books. And so they called me up and they're like, hey, you want to partner with us? You handle all the books. We'll do this and this, and we'll build this insurance agency. I was like, cool, I'm in. That's how I got involved with the insurance company. So when James got out of the Navy in 2013, I was like, hey, what's your plan? He's like, I don't know. I was like, great, you're coming to do insurance with me. And so, now he runs all the training for all our personal lines. And I mean, we've built an agency where we have 50 plus agents and growing.
Wow.
Right here in Southern California, which is awesome. But the problem,
build your residual income.
Yeah, starting to building our residual income, right? Build businesses, invest in real estate. And so we got to the point where we're training agents and we're trying to figure out different ways to help them get in front of more people, tell them what it is they do, right? It's marketing. It's 101, right? Absolutely. Stay top of mind as much as possible.
Right.
And I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I was also doing a real estate training course, and I was trying to build my real estate. I was doing flips. I was representing. I was like, there's got to be a better way to get more clients. And so all of them, every single podcast I listen to when it comes to coaching, we're saying the same thing. You need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. So I'm listening to Gary. Gary's like, I don't know why you haven't started a podcast already. I'm like, fine, dude. Like yelling at
why are you talking to me like that?
Why are you yelling at me like that? Okay, fine. So I ordered a few mics on Amazon, and I told James, I go, hey, dude, we're doing a podcast, so we're going to do it every day. And he looked at me like, you're freaking crazy, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there.
Kind of familiar.
Like, this is almost a mirror story. It's our story is almost the exact same, but we're not going to go we want to hear about your story. But
I was the one saying you're crazy. He was the one that brought
I was the one calling him and we said, hey, by the way, we're doing a daily podcast. You're in. So I'm
like, daily? Can we do a weekly?
Yeah.
That's what he said too, dude.
Yeah. Right.
And so we busted out the mics, and I got a couple, a cooler with a couple beers in it, and I was like, here, have a seat. We're talking about stuff.
Yeah.
So we just started talking about, our origin story, where we started, what we've been doing. We would outline the shows because we didn't really know what to say. We didn't have any. And prior to that, I had a social media page didn't have any pictures on it because I just used it to get invitations to family events and stuff.
Yeah.
But dude, it opened up so many doors. Like I got way better at talking to people, right? I got way better at listening to people and figuring out what it is they want, help kind of restructure their thought pattern and redirect them in the direction that they want to go in. I was telling you before the show that it's like Matrix. I insert, all their information in my head and I kind of sort it. That's kind of like my superhero gift. Like I take different people's opinions and I'm like, oh, did you know if we put this piece over here and we put this piece over here together, they can do this. And people are like, oh my gosh.
Kind of
that is amazing, right?
All the pieces and make Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when we get people on the show, it's kind of like that thing. They're like, I'm doing this in my business. I'm doing this over here. I'm trying to do this over here, and this is what my main thing is. And I'm like, well, if you try this and this and this, maybe we can structure it like this. And they're like, that's a great idea. And that kind of thought process that goes on in the show every day, it's what's made me a better business person. It's made me a better friend. It's made me just open up my mind to a bunch of different possibilities. Like they're sharing their experiences, their failures. So remember what I said before. Now I'm talking to 17-year-old kids, trying to get them to not make the mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking to people who have done a lot of different things. I started the show, I thought, oh, cool, this would be a good way to sell more real estate. But when I started interviewing real estate agents, I learned real quick that I'm not going to sell houses to real estate agents. So we shifted the dynamic of the show. Now we're like, well, everybody who comes on the show has an insurable interest. Let's talk about, the pipeline insurance the whole time.
Absolutely.
So we always drop in that we're able to help them with their insurance stuff. And it's just built the opportunity so much. Like, the coolest thing I think of having a podcast, by the way, is when you reach out to somebody, they call you back. Like, it's crazy that they call you back.
Yeah, we've done interviews and stuff with people that we had like, there's no way, without this, we would have never been put in contact. Right. I mean, even with you, without our show, we would never been in contact with you, and the connections and value you get from all this is insane.
100%, dude. 100%. It's ridiculous. Cause I don't know, prior to this, if I'm doing, like, for example, I could call, I don't know, expired listings, it would suck so much to pick up the phone and A, get a voicemail, or B, talk to somebody who didn't want to talk to you in the first place, right? It was so irritating. But like with the podcast, I call somebody, I'm like, hey, my name's Hernan, I got the Business Bros podcast. I was wondering if I can get some information for you, maybe even have you as a guest on the show. Like, all of a sudden they want to talk. Yeah, they want to talk.
They're like, go on.
Because
keep going.
It spreads value for them too. It's not,
Absolutely.
you're not just wasting their time asking a few questions or trying to gain their business.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And now, like, a lot of times I can have a conversation with people and it doesn't lead to business, but it leads to a friendship. And what I've noticed now in the podcast is people are asking things like, how do I start a podcast? How do I get my, social media game up and rolling? How do I increase my sales? How do I monetize? What else can I do to grow my company? So I started doing, ClickFunnels and understanding different strategies on online sales and developing my skills at like script writing and storytelling and all these different things so that I can turn around and say, I got an answer for you. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think you just read off a bunch of questions that I'm just about to ask you. So how long after the show after you guys launched the episodes and stuff, how long did it kind of take to gain some traction and some?
So we started in July, right? Okay. And from July to December, nobody listened.
Is that right?
My mom hopped on every once in a while.
Was that tough for you guys? Was there a lot of question in your mind of shit?
No.
Should we still be doing this? Or
I actually had that expectation from Gary Vee. He told me, he's like, you're going to do this and you're grind for like 3 years before it makes anything happen. Absolutely. So when I told him I was going to do this every day, I was like, we're going to do this for like 3 years, dude. And by the end of year 3, we should have a pretty good following. Like, we should have something built that's really nice, but it's got to be 3 years in. Mm-hmm. So we went in understanding that. It's actually my 8-year-old son that changed it for us, because he came up to me. He's like, Dad, your podcast is pretty good, but if you want people to listen, you need to get influencers on your show. And I was like, huh, that's genius. So I reached out to a couple of real estate agents I know. I was like, hey, you guys want to be on the show? Like, I'll give you the audio, because we didn't have video at the time. I was like, I'll give you the audio. You can use it for your social. They're like, hell yeah. And that's it. Once I got that one, I saw he shared it with his friends. I was like, oh my gosh. So get another one. And I'm going to give you guys a Facebook hack. You ready? Okay. So I got invited to be a guest on somebody else's show. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I went over there, and while we're sitting and doing the whole, doing the interview questions, remember I told you how it's awkwardly quiet at the beginning? Yep. So what I do is I go, okay, bust out your Facebook app. And what I'm going to have you do is like me individually as a person, right? So that way when we go live, I'm going to share the video with you, right? I'll tag you on the video. And then second, go to the Business Bros page, right? Hit the like button. And then there's a menu down there that says like home, blah, 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 home videos. Scroll all the way over to the right, hit the community button. Then where it says join, invite friends, click that, invite all your friends and send them over. That way when we go live, all your friends will see it and you'll have more people on your live feed, right? And so it works 2 things. A, they're coming to get exposure anyways, right? Mm-hmm. So this gives them the exposure that they're looking for, more people to see their interview. But B, now all those people that do like the page are now following you on Facebook. So I learned that strategy, and I opened up our Facebook page on March 31st of this year. So from April 1st to now, we've hit 6,000 followers on our Business Bros page just by doing that strategy alone and getting people. Now we have an audience. Right? Yeah. An audience that follows our content. So I have a social media team that helps us take our 30-minute episode and pull out 60-second gems, put a nice little border around it, make it look all fancy, right? And boom, we have 60-second pieces of content going out on Instagram, going out on Facebook, getting seen more and more and more. Now we're adding about between 100 to 200 followers a week according to Facebook, right? Where our views are somewhere around like the 2,500 views a week on the Facebook, because we do the live feed and that sort of stuff, plus the little video snippets that we send out. It's been phenomenal. Like, it's been awesome. So now when somebody really comes over and they're like, hey, I need help growing my business, that's now we got show sponsors. And the way I did it was pretty simple. I'm like, hey, I'm picking a few different people that want to be show sponsors. It'll cost, I think I charge them something like cheap, something like $500, right, to be a show sponsor. But I told them, I go, that's the only thing you're going to pay for right now. Because
how many shows?
My goal is not so much the show, is to turn them into the social proof that I did it with them.
Oh, okay.
They're my guinea pigs.
Yeah,
so I get to try all kinds of different things. I get to try, ad libs on the show. I get to try little content pieces sent out to my following. I get to create sales funnels and whatever. But the agreement's simple. We split the revenue that comes in, and if you win, you win. If I'm not good at what I do, you don't lose anything. You just get free exposure.
Yeah,
that's right.
So right now we're in that phase, and it's about to be we're about to launch a couple different things here in 2020 with the different sponsors that I had hand chosen, and we'll see what happens, right? And we'll see what develops from this. But at that point, it's going to be awesome, because now and I haven't talked to anybody about this, but what I'm developing is something that I'm calling the eVestor program. So for us, the Business Bros eVestors, I know there's a ton of entrepreneurs that we've interviewed on the show that have and are willing to put in their skill set to grow a business. They just don't have revenue at this time. They don't have. And so what I want to do is take a bunch of these eVestors, people who are entrepreneurial investors, and come into a group and say, look, this is the skill I got. And then somebody else with another particular skill, and I'll be the one to come and say, okay, let's put this team together. This is our objective, and we're going to meet on a regular basis, and we're going to basically putting together small partnerships to venture out and do to mastermind, but not just to mastermind, because my biggest flaw with a mastermind is people show up and there's no action taken. I want people to show up, build a team, and then do something with it and create a revenue stream for themselves. So I'm calling that the eVestor program. That's what I want to do in 2020, and it stems from having all these people on the show that want to increase what it is they do. Like knowing people that there are people who are great at video editing, but that's all they're good at, right? But they're beasts at it. So if I can put them together with like a show host maybe and develop a podcast stream, and put them together with like a funnel builder with a script writer, now we have the backings of a whole team. Yeah. And each of them knows that they're not going to get anything. There's no salaries, nothing like this. This is all their elbow grease going into this project. But if they build something cool together, the fortunes that they can make from there could be huge.
Could be huge, yeah.
So if we have people who are willing to see that, and I know there are because I've had them on the show, right? So if there's people who are willing to do that, and we can put them together, put the right people in the right seats on the right bus, now the vehicle's set. Let's go do something, right?
Yeah,
that's genius. That's great. Yeah,
so that's going to be that's the project for 2020, and it basically built around an ad agency. So I get to do what I do normally is stand in front, guide, take people's pieces of information, throw them in my brain, put them in an order that I think fit, and as long as everybody's on board, we're moving in the right direction.
That's really, brilliant. Yeah, so is this kind of the first? What was the first time you started monetizing from the podcast? Is it these sponsorships that you're
for sure. I mean, honestly, the first time we started monetizing is when we would talk about, pipeline insurance or whatever, and guests themselves would start bringing it. Like maybe we had a lender on and they would start sending us homeowner policies, or or we have we had an attorney on, they just bought a building, and so we insure the building. So that's actually how we monetize it. It's not direct, but I'm trying to build a monetized stream direct through the podcast, right? This is just podcast stuff direct,
right?
Not on the referral side, but it doesn't matter where you end up generating your revenue from. It's you're doing this for a reason, to get in front of people, tell them what it is you do. So if it brings revenue, whether through this company A or company B, whatever it is, it's a win.
Absolutely,
it's doing what it was intended to do.
So what's been the biggest struggle for you guys with doing the podcast? Obviously daily podcast is a lot of work, but what do you think has been the biggest struggle for you guys?
The biggest struggle is commitment, and then being able to, commitment is huge, right? Because it's not commitment just like me deciding I'm going to do this every day. I got, wife and kids, and they want to go on vacations. They want to do things during the day. So the commitment and getting everybody to buy in, that's like the biggest struggle so far. right? Making sure you have enough content every single day to post something. Cause, I mean, we'll be sometimes where we'll be ahead like 2 weeks, and then, you know, Christmas, for example, we block off a lot of days on the calendar, and then that lead count drops and you're like recording today for the show that's airing tomorrow, you know, type stuff. So, you know, that stuff is definitely more difficult. But I think the biggest thing now is, it's almost like you meet so many people and you see so many opportunities, picking and choosing the ones that you want to go after, because there's only so many times in the day, so much time in the day. You know what I mean? There's only so many hours.
That's right.
And so what is it that you want to focus your attention on, and then go in on that? Because you're gonna see the more people you talk to, the more doors are gonna open. And now you're deciding which door it's like going to 7-Eleven and picking a fountain drink, right? Like, one do I want?
They're all lighting up at you, and you're sitting there.
And you're like, okay, I finally picked the one I want. What? I got like 4 different additional flavors I can add into it. Like, you know, all of a sudden you start not understanding what it is that you went in to do. I was just thirsty. I should have just got water, but but you went to the light up station, and now you have options. So I think for me personally, that's my biggest dilemma. I think I probably would have made millions and millions of dollars if I could just focus on one thing and one thing only, but it's just not how my mind works. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's been my biggest flaw.
Got it.
So I know you kind of gave us an idea of what is in store for, you know, the next year for you, but where do you see yourself in the future with this? Obviously, you said you want to become famous and a certain amount of income, but what's in the store for you?
Yeah, dude. I like free stuff.
I think free is great.
Free's been awesome. I don't know, you guys can see kind of behind me, I got like a Gary Vee shelf of stuff that people kind of bring in, and the wife gets on my case sometimes. She's like, you had a bunch of crap back there.
It's not crap.
I'm like, yeah, but it's my crap. And it's you know, it's because I've made connections with people, and this is their way of sharing, you know, the books they've written, the shirts and the brands they've made, the companies that they're building. Like, to me, it's a lot more than just the stuff. I like getting the free stuff. I like going out and being invited to, you know, like premieres for their restaurants, or, you know, holiday parties or different things like that. I love that aspect of that relationship building. And so my goal for 2020 is to help to get more free stuff. And I think the way I get free stuff is by providing that company enough value where they want to cater to me. You know what I mean? Like, they want to say thank you in the best way possible. So it requires that I do something super special for that particular whoever I'm going to be working with in 2020. That's the biggest goal for me, to get as much free stuff as possible.
Hey, that's a good goal, actually. Get like 3 or 4 more shelves back there with stuff on there.
Yeah, exactly.
But through the podcast, what kind of value does that bring to a guest?
Yeah. So right now, the simple value is they get content. So they get a video content, they get audio content. My social media team picks different segments, and they'll do little snippets, and it's cool because if it's their particular guest that gets a snippet, they get additional content that goes out. So just the being on the show itself allows you to have that kind of content that you could repurpose, which is awesome. But what I want them to have in the end is access to essentially, it's a full-time coaching thing, but it's not. I don't want to call it coaching because it's not really my thing. I want to be my own investor, right? I want to be my own shark. I want to lend my skill to helping build more companies. But I'm over building a self-employed company. Like, I've done that already. I built the tax practice, self-employed. I built a real estate practice, self-employed. I built a game truck company, self-employed. I'm over that. Like, I don't want to be self-employed anymore. I want to build true businesses. I want to do, and most people will understand that at some point they realize I need a team. Right?
Yeah, it's the whole the quadrants, the Robert Kiyosaki.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, it comes with, you need to be at that point in your life to understand that I need to let go of some things and let people make the mistakes and kind of deal with those and go and move in the direction that we want to go in. So for me, that's what the investor program is. It's those like-minded people who are ready to build a team, who are ready to work towards something together, and let me help you coach you. And it's, you know, like I said, they're small businesses. I know my skill set. And so I'm going to place that value in somewhere, and I'm going to be part of teams that are growing. And some of them are going to grow and, you know, build empires. And some of them are going to build, you know, small little storefronts or whatever it's going to be, but all of them are going to be revenue streams. If you can leverage your skill set, that's the goal.
That's awesome. That that's it's when we talk, our ideas or concepts are very, very similar. So it's pretty funny how
it's because you don't have any hair, dude. So our thoughts go in the same direction. They don't get stopped by anything.
I was gonna say less friction to go into the thoughts. So, but yeah, I think we could talk about all this stuff for probably a few days total. But we're limited on time here, obviously. So we're going to jump into our Moments of Truth segment. It's the same 7 questions that we ask all of our guests. And I'm going to lead it off with the first one. Who is your success role model?
My success role model. I think the first one would have to be the Kiyosaki's. Even though I kind of dive between Ramsey and Kiyosaki, he was the first book I actually picked up and read ever, right? And by choice. And it just changed the way I saw the world. I understood things more simply.
Everybody else.
Yeah, that's it. After that, it was like, I want to learn. And so everybody else comes after, right? So even though there are probably, better mentors, better ideas or whatever, that was the first. So I'm going to go with the first.
Yeah. It's a good one. What's your biggest success?
I think honestly, the biggest success has been the podcast because it's given me my own personal transformation. I'm no longer scared to speak in front of people. I'm no longer afraid to voice my opinion. I'm no longer afraid not knowing what question I'm going to ask when I'm talking to somebody or how to hold a conversation. It's given me the greatest transformation, even though the podcast itself hasn't been as profitable as any of my other ones. It's made me a better person. And for me, like being a better person and being happy, that's my definition of success. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, it's helping you define some skills that you didn't even know that you needed to work on, or if you did, it's kind of free training.
Yeah, exactly.
So, next question: what's a typical day for you look like?
Typical day. I'm up at 4:20. I hit the gym. I run 3 miles a day, and then I do sit-ups and pull-ups. Those 3 things that I hate to do are the things that I do first in the morning.
That's good.
Get them out the way, and then after that, it's back home. Get the kids ready for school. Take them to school. Hit the classroom. After that, I got a gap from about 1 to 3:30, and every day is a little bit different. Sometimes it's handling emails and getting caught up on that aspect. Sometimes it's meeting people for lunches or conferences or pre-interviews. And then 4:00 comes around the corner and it's podcast time. After that, dinner with the family, and then once the kids are off in bed, then it's a couple hours at the end, whatever it is I can fill in. If it's emails or whatever, that's free time. That's usually a pretty typical day.
That's very cool.
It sounds focused. I got a quick question. Is 4:20 waking up in the morning anything specific?
He's out in California. Those Cali guys.
We never know.
Wake and bake and go.
Yeah, it could be part of your routine.
No. I just felt like 4:00 was too early, and I kind of worked it backwards. I want to be at the gym by 5. And so, it gives me that extra amount of sleep. I probably could have made it like 4:19 or 4:15, whatever, but 4:20. And plus it stirs up conversation when I say it. So
yeah, like this. Works. Yeah, we said 4:20.
What time do you wake up? 4:20, and I can right away look at somebody and be like, oh, I know you.
Yeah.
4:20, bro. Yeah. That's great. What's your favorite quote?
20 years from now, it won't be the things you did, but the things you didn't do that you regret. And so for me, that's huge. Like, what are you afraid of? I
love it.
Like, I like that. You ever watch We're the Millers?
Mm-hmm.
The movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know how he gets a tattoo on his neck? No regrets.
Yeah. No regrets.
Not even one letter.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
So my wife says for 15 years, at our 15-year wedding anniversary, she wants to get a tattoo. And I, back in like year 3, I was like, yeah, 15 years, sure, whatever. And then, 15 years is coming around the corner, like 2 years, it'll be 15 years married. And so she's like, what tattoos are we going to get? I'm like, dude, I don't know I don't have any tattoos. I don't want to get a tattoo. I don't like. She's like, well, you got to think of something. I'm like, well, I'm going to get no regrets. She's like, why? Because that's how I live my life. I got no regrets, right? No regrets, not even one letter. So I don't know.
Hilarious.
That's great.
No, that'd be really funny.
It'd be a good story to explain. So
yeah, exactly. Did it on purpose.
Yeah. So what are some of your hobbies?
Some of my hobbies, honestly, dude, podcasting has become my hobby.
Yeah.
Like it's hopping on this mic and talking to people has become one of the funnest, most fascinating things that I can do on a daily basis. So it's not work to me anymore. This is fun, dude. Yeah. Like I get to meet guys like you and tell my own story or share your guys' story. So you guys are going to be on my show here coming up in the next few weeks. And that's kind of cool to hear where you guys came from. I think that's the most amazing part of pretty much anything in human history. It always comes down to the stories, right? That's how we pass on who we are, what legacy we have, whatever. This is just one of those things where we're so early in it. Like we're going to be, imagine like, 100 years from now, like things get destroyed and they just find like clips of what's going on. Like your clip of your show could be one of the only things that survives in human history.
Yeah.
And now you're defining what we used to be. Like, I don't know.
That scares me a little,
Well, as bizarre, as crazy as that sounds, right? Right?
Right.
They'd be like, what the hell is 420?
But that's what it is, right? We've done it with books. We've done it with TV shows. We get to do it now with podcasts and what we live online. Like this is our legacy. This is our story that we get to tell. Yeah. And in my story, I get to tell it with a bunch of other people. So this is my hobby.
This could be the $10 million rare interview that somehow makes it through the apocalypse. And
exactly. This guy was a living legend. They were both bald with hair counterparts.
That's right. What's the best business book that you've read?
Ooh, best business book. I'm gonna go with the most recent one since I'm learning a lot about storytelling and trying to be able to tell a story, whether it's guiding someone through their story or telling a story. So there's two. Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets is, to me, one of the best books I've read as far as helping you build a complete story around your sales process. And he recommends a book called The Heroes.
Funnels guy, right?
He's the ClickFunnels guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Expert Secrets is really good. I've been listening to that one over and over again, but he recommends another book called The Hero's Two Journeys. And so I think it's Michael Hagen is the author in that one.
What's it called again?
A Hero's Two Journeys. And so it really breaks down how you see anything in any hero in any movie or any story you've ever told goes through these two journeys. An external journey, which is like, I'm going to go save the princess type thing, or an internal story where it's like, I just, I'm not good enough. I'm not where I need to be in life, or I pretend that I'm completely happy, but I'm not. And so you see them in the story go through both journeys. So you see them, save the princess, but you also see them develop as a character who they need to become in order to save the princess. Right. So, understanding the dynamic of those two stories put together in one good story that you tell is going to be the difference between your story being boring and your story being awesome and spreading the message that you want to spread and help people reach that, aha moment, just like you had, because you've infused what you're saying with emotion all the way through.
Yeah, that's really good.
Those are the two that I'm at right now, but tons of different books. Like we can go to a list of books.
I haven't heard of those, so I'm going to check those
out.
But last question here. If there's one key piece of advice you could leave our listeners with about achieving success, what would it be?
Nobody gives a shit.
About what?
Anything you do, no one really cares. No one cares about what it is you do. We're going to stop ourselves so many times from doing things that we want to do because we're afraid of what other people are going to say.
100%.
And me, one of the biggest,
and as soon as you're too arrogant to think about that. Like people don't care about you.
Yeah. The world does not revolve around you. You can make a mistake. You can get hit by a puddle in public traffic and everybody will laugh. It might even go viral, but nobody's going to know it was you. They're just going to know it was the guy that got splashed or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's not, nobody cares about you to the point where it's going to stop you from doing what you need to do. You need to just take action. Do things, whatever it is that's in that head of yours, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, just go out and do it. And you will fall, you will trip, you will make a mistake, but that's okay. You're getting better. You're that much better now because you've made the mistake than before when you were thinking about it, because you never took any action. So no one cares. No one cares. You care more than anybody else, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. Like if you can take that passion, if you can take that passion and share it with other people, listen to other people, find out ways to help other people, you're going to get that much better. But nobody cares about what you're doing. Yeah. Sorry.
That's good.
You care the most, but that's also, you're the most limiting factor to getting shit done. So, and it's just, that's great. So Hernan, how can our listeners get in contact with you? Name of your show again, where they can find all that stuff for you.
100%. You guys can find us on any one of our social media pages at Business Bros Pod. You might want to check out, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah, we post every single episode, but we're about to drop. I do some music parodies. So I'll take a song, rewrite the lyrics for a particular company. Like I did one for the solar company. That's one of our show sponsors. So I did Nelly, It's Hot in Here for the solar company.
Okay.
The fish taco company, I did Area Codes by Ludacris. So instead of I got hose, it's fish tacos. And I just wrote and recorded the Real Slim Shady, and we did it for the Real Gary V. So this is my ploy to get Gary V's attention.
Okay.
So we'll be dropping that one here pretty soon. So at Business Bros Pod is where you find it.
Hilarious.
You can just Google that. You'll find all our stuff.
That's
cool. Great.
Well, I'm gonna definitely check out those music videos. I won't judge you guys. We're just getting more ideas or copy you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, absolutely, dude, hands down, it's fun, dude.
Yeah.
I have fun with it.
Yeah.
I told you, like when I was in college, I would walk around with my headphones on, 8 Mile styles.
Yeah.
Now I was like, I can't flow, right? I can't rap like that. I can write some stuff down, but that's about the extent of my stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll look like an idiot on camera now, no problem. I used to fear that, but now it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll get any rap videos out of us, but we'll see what we can throw together.
Yeah.
But Hernan, we appreciate you being on the show today. I learned a lot, and like I said, I think we could probably talk for several hours. But we appreciate you being on the show, and for our listeners, go check out the Business Bros podcast, and they're doing a lot of similar things that we're doing. But also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. Again, Hernan, we appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.